welcome to round 5 of the My Bike Motorcycle Insurance Australian Superbike Championship presented by Motul. After the wide open spaces of Darwin's Hidden Valley, we arrive at Queensland's Morgan Park Raceway, one of the tighter and more technical circuits on the 2022 calendar. At just under 3 kilometres in length, Morgan Park is well known for its iconic Turn 3, but multiple elevation changes, blind corner entries and a short straight mean there is nowhere to rest, ensuring the racing in all classes this weekend will be action-packed. Turn 1, the AWMF corner starts off a lap here at Morgan Park, then it's the uphill Alpine Stars Turn 2, iconic Turn 3 under the bridge and then down into Motul corner Turn 4. Hard on the brakes is an overtaking opportunity. Same at Honda Turn 6 and Yamaha Turn 7 starts the run down the very narrow, fast and bumpy back straight through Michelin, Dunlop and then the bottom of the hill at Turn 10, the Suzuki corner. We run up through the final chicane and finish off the lap over the crest here at Morgan Park. Let's find out more about this very technical circuit with a man that has 4 Superbike victories here, Troy Herfoss. He's with Steve Martin.
Well, this track, Troy, Morgan Park Raceway, is completely different to the big open spaces that we had at Hidden Valley. It's tight, it's twisty, it's a little bumpy, a decent little run down into Turn 1 into the Alpine Stars section, but it's here at Turn 3, really. You said to me before the start of this session that this corner here, Turn 3, makes Morgan Park.
It does, Steve. This is one of my favourite corners on the calendar, really, and this corner sums up Morgan Park. It's rough on the way in, it's blind, the fences are close, you don't see where the exit is, the corner opens up, the bike's out of control as you exit. It completely sums up this track. Let's go for a walk around the track and see the rest of it.
Absolutely. Let's head round. It might be tight and a good place to go for a jog, but this Morgan Park circuit, it's got plenty of overtaking opportunities. I've seen people pass in Turn 1, the Alpine Stars corner, Motul corner, another place. What do you reckon?
From Turn 4, if you can't get it done, Steve, you've got this run through Turn 5 into Honda Turn down to Turn 6. They're both very similar corners, but you can either be setting up at Turn 4 or making the pass, or I like to wait till Honda corner. It's a bit safer down there, a bit slower.
There was a time when you had to worry about tyre conservation at this circuit, but the tyres are so good now that it's more about preserving your body over the distance of the race.
Pirelli have developed a tyre that we can do 16 laps full gas on. So now it's about the body trying to get around this bumpy circuit full gas. It makes a really tough day out.
Well, let's twist the throttle and get down to the fastest part of the circuit. Well, this is where things really start to ramp up. Through Motorcycling Australia, into Michelin and down through Dunlop. All these 3 sections linked together, 220 kilometres an hour, but the thing I can't believe is how close you get to this white line.
Yeah, this part of the track, it's 220 kilometres an hour. There's no curb, so you are dragging the front wheel through here at the highest speed on the track, into the roughest part of the track and trying to change direction. There's so much going on, and that's what makes Morgan Park so exhilarating.
It's really like threading the eye of the needle, isn't it?
It sure is.
Right, let's go. Can you overtake here, or is it all sorted in that last fast sector that we talked about?
Look, it's not the place where you always overtake, but you know what it's like in the last lap here. You've got a chicane where you can either pass on the way in, or you can lay off, gain some momentum, and try and get a bit of a pass over this rise on the way to the finish line. It's
blind on this rise too, so you really got to try and keep that front wheel down, because if that wheel lifts up, you can actually lose drive.
That's right. There's so much. It's not just a straight here, Steve, is it? You're on the rear brake trying to stop the Superbike from wheel standing. If you get a bad drive, the bike gets out of shape. There's many ways you can pass the way to the finish line. You don't just need a fast bike. You need to be technically very good on this track.
Well, there you have it. Morgan Park. Technical, tricky and fast.
Last time out at Darwin's Hidden Valley Raceway, it was once again Yamaha Racing Team's Mike Jones that dominated the round. We all know him as Mad Mike, but in Darwin it was Metronomic Mike who took 2 decisive wins and a second place to extend his championship lead over defending champion and race 2 winner, Wayne Maxwell. Championship points sees Mike Jones now on 202 championship points, 40 ahead of Wayne Maxwell on 162. Brian Starring hanging on in third with 155, and Troy Herfoss, after a podium in Darwin for the first time in 12 months, surged into 4th place. Wayne Maxwell on the Boost Mobile Racing with K-Tech V4R took home the AMX Superstores Pole Position Award with a new best ever lap of 1 minute 12.562. His third pole of the year, reducing Mike Jones' championship lead by 1 point. There is the grid. Wayne Maxwell will start out of pole position on board bike number 1. Mike Jones in second. Crew Halliday in third. Yamaha Racing Team really taking it to the Boost Mobile team this weekend. Lachlan Epps in fourth, his best ever performance in qualifying. Troy Herfoss in fifth, and Brian Starring rounds out the second row.
Good to see Brock Pearson there as well, doing a great job for him. Arthur Cece's in eighth. He's not out of this either. He's a fast starter. 727 Jed Metcher back as well. Glenn Allerton there in 14th. Anthony West on the Dunlop Shot Yamaha for the Go machine. Max Stauffer as well, learning every time he gets out on the bike. This is going to be an absolute crack of a race, Phil. I do not know who's going to win this. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it is going to be extremely tight, I think, for the first few laps, with everyone jockeying for position, trying to set themselves up. Good to see Matt Walters back on board the Kawasaki Connection machine as well. Of course, missed the last round in Darwin. Hasn't done a lot of riding lately, so missing those 2 sessions really cost him setup time on board that Kawasaki ZX-10. Not an easy motorcycle to ride around here.
Definitely not. Also, Nathan Spiteri's back here this weekend as well. There is Brock Pearson on his warm-up lap as he heads to the grid for the first time on that Ducati V4 Panigale with the Desmo Sport team. Anthony West, we just got a glimpse of him there. There's the number 83 of Epis. Keep an eye on him. He's going to be giving it everything that he's got as they make their way to the grid now. It's nearly time, Phil. Time to get this big race underway.
Well, there is plenty to play for this weekend as we start the run home to the final round that will decide the 2022 Alpine Stars Superbike champion. Only 7 races remain, Steve Martin, and one of those is about to occur as Wayne Maxwell pulls that Boost Mobile Racing machine up to a pole position. Jones and Crew Halliday all have form at this circuit, joining him on the front row of the grid. We are ready to go racing. The Alpine Stars Superbike race number 1. Bit of debris being taken away from the front of the track there as we get ready to go. Quality field. Alpine Stars Superbike race 1 from Morgan Park Raceway. Superbikes are go. Look like a pretty good start there from a couple of riders as Lachlan Epps surges his way through the field to take the running down in towards turn 1. Arthur Cece's didn't get his traditional fantastic start. In fact, Glenn Allerton has gone up the inside of him as Epps leads. Maxwell in second. Looks like Crew Halliday in third.
Wow, I don't think anybody expected to see Epis win that. It's going to be interesting to see if that was a clear start or not. But at the moment, it's Epis in front with Wayne Maxwell already with a bobble in second place. And I'll tell you what, Epis has got seeing red. He is on the move out the front there. Definitely not being overshadowed and taken over by Maxwell at the moment, is he?
So the Evolution Sports Group BMW leads the field as they come down through Honda Corner and up towards Yamaha now in this first lap of Alpine Stars Superbike race 1 from Morgan Park. Looking at the rest of the field as they make their way through. Brian Starring hasn't got the start he wanted. He's back in 6th position. Troy Herfoss is in 5th place, and Maxwell has already closed down that early lead of Lachlan Epps as they come down the inside. Maxwell comes down the inside, tries a block pass. Epps is off the circuit at the bottom of the hill. That is at the Suzuki corner. So the BMW is off track, and Maxwell is into the lead with a pretty handy gap at the moment over Crew Halliday in 2nd position.
Yeah, what a good start by Crew Halliday. That's exactly what he needed to do. Starting's been his weak point. That's plagued him all year. Epis goes back down the field. Unfortunately for him, a lot of work to do. But Maxwell, you knew he was going to strike hard and fast.
Well, that is an important point you just made about Crew Halliday's starts. They haven't been good all year. In fact, they haven't been good for years. To get off the line well is what is really needed by Crew Halliday this weekend. He's fast at the end of the race. We know that. But a good start means that he's going to be in for a very strong race here and really give a challenge to his teammate.
Starring's where he needs to be too, in 4th position at the moment, in an attacking position behind Mike Jones. So not a bad start for him. Moved forward a couple of spots. Herfoss there just at the back of that group too. But boy, did anyone expect to see this? Look at Maxwell. He is flying out there in front.
Well, yesterday in qualifying, it was Sector 2 where Wayne Maxwell was dominating the timesheets through that very tricky section with lots of changes of direction. His bike clearly sounds different, and I think what you'll find is that Wayne Maxwell uses a different gear strategy to what everybody else does through that sector of the circuit as we get confirmation that start is actually under investigation as Wayne Maxwell powers over the line to complete lap 2 of this 16-lap race. Crew Halliday still in second, Jones in third, but look who is right there with Troy Herfoss. It is Glenn Allerton, the 3-time Australian Superbike champion. Started back on the third row of the grid, but he's making his presence felt up in 6th place already.
Yeah, absolutely. He's what a brilliant ride he had last time out in Darwin on the podium, beating Troy Herfoss. That was a great result for him. That team making their way forward, but definitely work to do for him. Starring still stuck there in 4th position at the moment.
Right behind Glenn Allerton is Brock Pearson. We spoke about him earlier, on board bike number 4, the second of the Desmo Sport Ducatis. His teammate Brian Starring, you can see him there on 67, camped on the back of Mike Jones, the local man, the championship leader on board bike number 46, the Yamaha Racing Team R1M. Very close. Oh, look at Crew Halliday manhandling that Yamaha as he comes out of turn 7, the Yamaha corner, and starts his run down through this very fast section. Crew Halliday's been doing a lot of motocross riding. That will put him in good stead for that section of the track. It is very bumpy down there.
Absolutely. Looks to me, though, like Jones is looking for a way past him at the moment. A bit of a bank up of guys behind him. They do not want to let Wayne Maxwell get away, but Crew Halliday playing it smart. Good drive out there onto the main straight. Tucked in behind the screen. I'll tell you what, Phil, the straights at this track are short, but they're even shorter on a Superbike.
They well, imagine they would be, Steve, because there is just not much room in between corners here. As we watch a replay of Wayne Maxwell's dive bomb at Suzuki corner on the AMX replay, runs up the inside. Epis went to turn into the corner. All of a sudden found that there was a Boost Mobile Racing with K-Tech Ducati V4R with a 3-time champion on board, right in the bit of tarmac that he needed to be on. By the time he got it back on track, he dropped back down to about 11th or 12th position. He's now in 11th position, and his fastest lap of the his lap on the last lap was a 1:16, so he's about 2 or 3 seconds off the pace of our race leaders.
Yeah, he's definitely got work to do, probably trying to make his way past the back markers, but he will be really disappointed that that happened. But Maxwell was always going to strike, leave a small gap, and Wayne Maxwell will go through on that Boost Mobile Racing with K-Tech machine.
So pretty handy lead for Maxwell at the moment, out to about 1.8 seconds, but we're in the early stages of this race. We're only at 1/4 race distance as they come round to complete the 4th lap. Halliday has got his teammate Jones in constant company. Right behind him is Brian Starring in good position along with Troy Herfoss. Been confirmed no jump start, so it was just an absolute lightning start from Lachlan Epis that got him that lead down into turn 1 for the first time. Unfortunately, it didn't last too long.
Herfoss is looking for a way through now. Look at that, almost up the inside there. Herfoss is definitely on a bit of a run here.
Yeah, looking very racy is Troy Herfoss, of course. He has 4 victories, more than anyone else here at this circuit. Last time out, though, that we were here at Morgan Park, Wayne Maxwell took a race victory and Mike Jones took a race victory. Is that anything to take into consideration for the racing here this weekend, Steve?
Well, you know, anything can happen. All I know at the moment is it looks to me like Crew Halliday just can't keep the pace up of Wayne Maxwell, who's just dipped into the 12s around this circuit. That is an absolute cracker of a lap time. 12.9 from Wayne Maxwell. He is not mucking around. He wasn't meant to be that quick here. The Ducati wasn't meant to work that good here. But I tell you what, he's doing great.
Jones through on Crew Halliday for 2nd place. Jones realises he has to go now if he wants to try and haul back in Wayne Maxwell, who is surging away at the front. A 12.942, the fastest lap of the race, is about 0.3 of a second off Troy Herfoss's lap record of 12.645.
Starring almost up the inside too. He got next door to him but couldn't quite pull it off. 13.5 for Jones that time through. But he really does have to put the hammer down. 13.1, he lost another half a second that last lap. Look at that gap. If Jones can close that down, that's incredible.
Well, looking at the top speeds, Wayne Maxwell's bike is the fastest on the start-finish straight as well, 239 kilometres an hour, and the championship implication would be that if it stays like this, Wayne Maxwell will take back another 5 points on Mike Jones. As has been pointed out in the press conference yesterday, Jones doesn't have to win, but he's a racer. He always wants to taste the win. Here comes Troy Herfoss. He's up into 3rd place now. He's got the better of Brian Starring. He's got the better of Crew Halliday. And number 17, the Penrite Honda, is on a charge. We knew that this was going to happen here this weekend. Troy Herfoss loves this this circuit.
Yeah, Halliday had a little bit of a moment there with the rear wheel. He just lost the rear wheel, had to close off, and that was enough to let Herfoss go through.
You see the way the Penrite Honda was just bouncing from one whoop to the next as he made his way down through Michelin corner and on the transition from Michelin to Dunlop as well. As he comes through the chicane now, he rides the back brake incredibly hard to try and keep the front wheel on the ground. Doesn't use much electronic intervention on board that CBR 1000 RRR as he comes down now into AWMF corner to start the 7th lap of this race.
Look, watch this. You can just see Crew Halliday there. Had that moment in the background, and that was enough to lose momentum. Troy Herfoss says thank you very much, finds the way through there, does a beautiful pass around the outside, and now Crew Halliday is back in 4th place.
Well, Troy Herfoss was telling us that Honda Corner is one of his favourite places to launch and overtake, but I don't think he's done one like that quite often.
No, absolutely not. Brock Pearson now 5.1 seconds off the leader, but he's doing some pretty decent lap times. 13.4 last time round. That was his fastest lap of the race. So Brock Pearson is doing some decent lap times. Jones last time through to the 13.0, which was quicker than the race leader, Wayne Maxwell.
Yeah, 0.9 of a second off his teammate is Brock Pearson. We can see them there on bikes 67 and 4. Glenn Allerton coming under a bit of scrutiny now from the CCs on board the Unitech Racing Yamaha R1 bike number 61, and also Jet Metcher on board the 727 Moto machine, bike number 3, as they come up towards the Yamaha chicane. The BMW M1000, like Matt Walter's Kawasaki ZX10, certainly would be a handful round here because it's famed for its top-end power, not so much its bottom-end drivability off the corners. As Arthur CCs moves up 1 position and takes that position off Glenn Allerton for 8th. Plenty more action coming up here at Alpine Stars Superbike Race 1 from Morgan Park. Back after this short break. Back here to Morgan Park, where we look at Jones now just hunting down Wayne Maxwell on the last lap, Steve. 0.3 of a second. The gap is now down to 1.1 for Mark Jones. Has to try and pull in the distance back to Wayne Maxwell. Of course, for more information on this series, all the W's, asbk.com.au, to keep up to date with anything that's happening in this championship that's really alive at the moment, with Wayne Maxwell leading over championship leader Mike Jones.
Still looks like a decent gap though at over 200 kilometres an hour, 1.1 seconds. It's a lot of track that Mike Jones has got to eat up. He's just eking away at that gap, but once again, as I said before, Wayne Maxwell will be reading that lap board and seeing that time come down, trying to mentally calculate if Jones can catch him with 4 laps to go.
Well, the other thing is, it's all one thing to catch up onto the back of Wayne Maxwell. It's another thing to try and find his way past, because we know that Wayne Maxwell, an extremely experienced Superbike campaigner. He has been in the top 3 of this championship pretty much every year since he made his debut with a factory team back in about 2008, when his teammate Glenn Allerton won the championship. So Wayne Maxwell is a front runner in this championship. Doesn't matter what team, what bike he's riding. In the last couple of years, he's been dominant to take himself to 3 Superbike championships, the same as Glenn Allerton, Josh Waters, and also Sean Giles, and of course Marty Craggle, who won championships as well back in the 90s.
Well, he's eaten up another 4 tenths. That gap has certainly come down now, and the number 1 machine is in trouble. Let's head down to Kate.
Yeah, I've got Scott Howard here for the motorsport manager of Yamaha. What can Crew do in these final laps?
Well, Crew's crashed, obviously, so let's talk Mike Jones. Okay, Mike's slowly closing on Wayne here, so we've got 3 laps to go now. We're down to about a second. Mike will give it his all. Yep. So we won't be asking any questions at the end of it. He's going to go all in and try and win this race. That was the strategy of the day, so going to be close, but I don't back you. I'll back you.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Well, back markers coming to the equation now as well. Wayne Maxwell manages to find his way past the very experienced Nathan Spiteri on board the Livson Racing BMW M1000 RR, bike number 78. And as Nathan, with all that experience under his belt, just gets out of the way and lets the 2 leaders make their way through at AWMF corner. The current gap, Steve, is down to 0.6 of a second between Wayne Maxwell, our race leader, and Mike Jones, second place rider and championship leader. Remember, coming into this race, the gap was 39 points. The difference between first and second is in points for this race is 5 points as Wayne Maxwell goes past another one of the local riders, Benjamin Lowe, on board his Ducati and makes his way up towards Yamaha corner. But plenty of back markers now coming into the equation here at Morgan Park, which is going to make it even more difficult. They'll come round to complete this lap and there will be 2 more laps to go, so just over 6 kilometres of racing left for Wayne Maxwell and Mike Jones. Yeah, it's definitely not making it easy for these two guys, all this traffic, and Mike Jones looks like he's lost out a little bit there, but 0.4 the gap now. That gap definitely coming down, but it's going to be tight. Well, more back markers about to get gobbled up by our race leaders as they come out of the Yamaha chicane and across the line to complete 14 laps. That's Sloane Frost having a ride this weekend on board the Maxima Racing Oils .film BMW. Good to see Sloane Frost back on a bike here in Australia. Of course, his son Nixon racing in the Blue Crew Oceania Junior Cup, and Jones is there. Jones is right onto the back of Maxwell now. This is going to be a dogfight for the last 2 laps. Who wants this race more? Who's prepared to put more on the line? Jones doesn't have to put it on the line. He simply doesn't. If he finishes behind Wayne Maxwell, gives away 5 points. It's not going to be, you know, a massive implication for his championship as Crew Halliday gets out of the way. Of course, still circulating around on board bike number 65 after that earlier crash. Jones is very, very smooth. That means he's probably got a little bit more grip than Maxwell left as well. We know that he's good flowing into the corners. He looks after his tyres. It's all going to come down to the final lap. Is he going to be brave enough to have a risk? Well, through the bumpy section, the Boost Mobile racing with K-Tech V4R bouncing around all over the place, but Maxwell just simply manhandling it through there, maintaining pace. They will come round and get the last lap board in only a couple of corners' time. Through Suzuki they come, up towards the Yamaha chicane. Jones is right onto the back now. Can he get drive out of here? Making a solid AMMF corner, turn 1. I think Maxwell has still got enough of a lead that Jones is going to have to do a little bit more to try and find a way past. Yeah, absolutely. He's good into Alpine Stars corner, but Wayne Maxwell will give it his all, and he is tough. A bit wide there. Jones, if he's got a chance, it's going to be down into Motul, but I reckon Maxwell's got the gap. He's not going to let him nip up the inside either. Into Motul they come for the final time. Front end bouncing around over the bumps for Wayne Maxwell. Jones still sitting there in second place. The gap back to Troy Herfoss is 7.5 seconds from our race leaders, and Troy Herfoss has about, well, nearly 2 seconds gap over Brock Pearson. So Brock Pearson is going to have to hope that Troy Herfoss makes an error on this last lap if he wants to join these two on the podium as we come through Yamaha for the final time. It is still Maxwell that leads. We're heading for the fastest and bumpiest part of the section. Can Jones' bike ride the bumps better than what Maxwell's machine can? He can't go down the inside of Dunlop. Can he do it at Suzuki? It's going to be difficult. I don't think he's close enough. No, Maxwell's too good through this part of the circuit. He's too good. He goes wide to try and tip it in, and up the inside perhaps. Up the hill they go. Is he going to have a dip? No, he's not. Maxwell out of the chicane, leads Jones as they come across the line. I don't think the Yamaha can drive past the booming Ducati as they come across the line, and Maxwell takes the victory. Jones takes second place. Congratulations to Wayne Maxwell and Boost Mobile Racing with K-Tech. They take a well-earned victory over the championship leader Mike Jones here at Morgan Park Raceway, and Troy Herfoss back on the podium as well at a track that he has a very fond relationship with. Congratulations also to Brock Pearson. 4th place on board bike number 4 in his Desmo Sport Ducati debut is a sensational result for the reigning Australian Supersport champion. No, absolutely. What a result for Pearson. That was great. But Maxwell, how tough is he? He is a man on a mission. That bike and package wasn't really meant to work at this track. We know that Wayne reckons the layout's good, but he just doesn't like it as good as he does. But nevertheless, Maxwell takes the win by 0.195 of a second over Mike Jones. Remember, at one stage he had a 1.5 second lead. Herfoss in 3rd place, back on the podium again for the Penrite Honda. Congratulations. 3 manufacturers on the podium as well. Brock Pearson in 4th. Brian Starring rounds out the top 5.
Troy Herfoss in P3 back on the podium. You fought through from the second row there. Wow, how's the body? What a ride. Well done.
Yeah, it's very, very sore. That was a weird race for me. So when you start a race, you always rush into the guy in front of you, trying to pass him. Like, I knew I was so far off being able to ride at my best of my ability the whole race, so I just literally didn't even consider the guys in front of me what they were doing. If they made a mistake, I just sat in behind them, and I waited till sort of lap 6 or 7, and then a few mistakes started coming up, and I got through, and I literally, the whole race was sort of like I was the only guy on the track, really. I didn't sort of get caught up trying to catch Mike when I first got to 3rd. I just done my thing, and yeah, super hard race. Holy hell. I just can't explain like how hard that is. Like literally through turn 8 at the end, I was hoping my hand could hang onto the bar. Like, yeah, anyway, the shoulder's just a bit sore, and then left to right, when I go into the right-hand corners, it just hurts a little bit, but it's, like I always say, it's getting better, and I'm still here. I'm racing a motorbike, so I'm pretty happy.
You might need to go and have a rest between the next race.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done, Troy Herfoss. And in P2, Mike Jones from YRT Racing. You just couldn't catch Wayne Maxwell. The championship is still alive.
Yeah, unfortunately just didn't quite get the start that I'd like to have gotten there, and you know, got behind crew, and just those first couple of laps let Wayne get away, and although I had the pace to you know, run with him or even be a bit quicker, I just wasn't able to quite get there right at the end. So you know, we'll have to work on that for the next race, and I think that I can be confident knowing that we've got the pace for the race, that's for sure.
Congratulations, Mike Jones. Good luck in the next race.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
And in P1, Wayne Maxwell. Wayne, such a critical race for you, such critical points. Well done.
Yeah, amazing. The guys at Boost Mobile with KTAC gave me a fantastic bike today. Adrian, my crew chief, you know, he's the brains behind the whole operation. You know, Craig builds an immaculate Ducati V4R, but he's the brains, and everyone in the team to make sure nothing goes wrong. Greg, Sean, Ken Barry from KTAC, Julie, to make sure the boys are fed and done. Without everyone, it doesn't work. Everyone plays their role in our team, and that's the most important part.
Okay, well done. Just tell us about your race, though. Was it really physical?
Yeah, the race was hugely physical. So for me, approaching 40, you know, the young guys are, you know, Mike's so strong here, but I found a good rhythm at the start, and yeah, really, really good. I was suffering a little bit at the end, but good enough to get it done to take the victory today.
Well done, Maxwell. Good luck in the next race.
Thanks so much.
And we have a look at that grid. Wayne Maxwell, Mike Jones and Crew Halliday on the front row of the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be real tricky. You know, like we got guys like Epis there in 4th position as well, who really, you know, could come into the play of this as well. I don't know what's going to happen. All we know is that Mike Jones, if he gets a good start, it's going to be hard for Wayne Maxwell to stop him. Maxwell's made a couple of changes to his bike, and also he can just go for it now. He's got another month of time to recover from this, so Maxwell can put everything into it. Allerton, another one, you know, he didn't really perform the way that we thought he would last time out, but if he can get a decent start, he could also be up there. We saw him get on the podium up in Darwin. No reason why if he doesn't start well, he'll make it.
Yeah, Max Stouffer also doing a great job in his first ever visit to Morgan Park on board a superbike as well. A much different kettle of fish to the Supersport 300 bike that he's raced here previously. Well, who's your prediction, Steve? Who do you think will take this win?
Well, my heart's with Maxwell, but I think Jones might take this one.
My only prediction is that I think you'll find that Troy Herfoss will be on the podium again from the second row of the grid as we get ready to go racing. Alpine Star Superbike Race 2, ready to go. Superbikes are go. Good start it looked like for Crew Halliday once again. Can he get the 65 down into turn 1 in the lead? Brian Starring's also got a cracking start, but it is Jones on board the 46 machine that takes the lead down in towards turn 1, the AMMF corner, and he will lead them through turn 3 for the first time as well. Exactly what Jones wanted. A good start, and Maxwell has now got to do the chasing.
Well, he does, and Maxwell needs to strike really quick and try and break that momentum that Jones seems to have easily this year. Going to be interesting to see what he can do, but I mean, pretty much this is the championship for that guy. Good to see Starring up in 3rd position too, but this is it. Epis got another good start as well.
Yeah, top 3 in the championship, top 3 on the road as we make our way through Yamaha Revjahar corner on this first lap and down through this very fast back section of the circuit. Looks like Epis has got a good start in 4th. Just looking back behind him, that you'll find as Crew Halliday's dropped back to 5th, Herfoss in 6th, Pearson in 7th, Sissis in 8th, Allerton in 9th, and West rounds out the top 10.
Geez, Brock Pearson's making it hard for himself, isn't he? He's got good race pace later on in the race, but he always has to work his way through. Needs to sort out the starting of that machine. He's down in 7th at the moment. He would have been happy with the 7th place finish at any other time this year, but he's already had a 4th here in his first ever ride on that Desmo Sport Ducati, so I'm guessing he ain't going to be happy with 7th this time round. but it already looks like Mike Jones has set a cracking pace on the first flying lap round there. There's a bike length or two, but he hasn't really managed to pull away from the two guys behind him. Epis is hanging in there too.
Oh, I thought Maxwell was going to have a bit of a look down the inside there, but Jones was just too deep and late on the brakes for Maxwell to get the Boost Mobile Racing with K-Tech machine up the inside. And Starring has got a much better start and looks a lot more composed than what his bike did in the first couple of laps of race one, where he was having to battle in the pack. And the action was very close in there as well. Just looking back through the pack to see who's making a bit of a move. Crew Halliday looks like he's still holding off Troy Herfoss, but hasn't got an answer for the fast-starting Lachlan Epis.
Well, it's the first half of the race where Maxwell's got the speed, the same speed as the number 46, Mike Jones. The issue is the second half of the race. The second half of the race, Mike seems to be able to do those times on no grip, where Maxwell's bike seems to just fall back a little bit. So I expect Maxwell will be right there, and Starring as well is right there now too. But look at him go. He's going up the inside, can't quite do it. Jones is so quick into the corners.
Yeah, I think Jones just lets the brake off and runs in there very fast. I did notice that Troy Herfoss had managed to get past Crew Halliday and was almost onto the back of Lachlan Epis' machine. You can see him right there on board the Penrite Honda bike number 17. So Herfoss is on a bit of a charge, but he's got a lot of work to do considering how much of a distance these top three riders have put on the rest of the field in only the first couple of laps of this race.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine that Maxwell's going to... He will have a dive up the inside on Jones at some point, and I'm guessing it's not going to be too far away because he won't want Jones to lead all the way.
Just looking at the bike's attitudes as they come out of turn 7 on that camera angle, you can see they were both looking still pretty composed, considering the amount of bumps down here and how hard it is to change direction. If anything, it looks like Wayne Maxwell's just happy to sit there at the moment because he knows that they're actually starting to pull away fractionally from Brian Starring. And he'd rather let Jones do the donkey work out front as long as he's happy to maintain that pace.
I think Starring's actually quite quick to this point here. Then he just seems to lose a little bit for some reason. The gap opens up just there a bit. I think that Wayne's just got such good drive out of that corner. But Starring's right there this time. He's definitely on the pace. 13.0 last time through for Maxwell. 13.4 for Starring, and Jones was 13.3.
Yeah, fastest lap of the race so far is that 13.0. Incidentally, 13.046 for Wayne Maxwell, his fastest lap of the race, but there was nothing between their lap times on that last lap. And they are about a tenth of a second faster than Troy Herfoss, who did a 13.5. Herfoss, Epis and Brock Pearson all did their fastest laps on that last lap. You know who the fastest of the three of them was? Pearson. The rookie on board the Ducati, Brock Pearson.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be begging Ben Henry to take that bike down to the drag strip and learn how to start it before next time out. But you can catch all the action on asbk.com.au.
Top three, nothing between them now as they come down through the bottom end of the circuit and into Suzuki Corner, where we saw so much action in race number 1 earlier today. It is Jones leading from Maxwell and Starring, two Ducatis, and the, well, so far over the last few rounds, the dominant Yamaha YZF R1M of Mike Jones have pulled a fairly sizable gap over Troy Herfoss in 4th position. It's out to about 1.3 seconds now as they come over the start-finish line.
1:12.771. I'm not talking Mike Jones. Herfoss just did 12.771, 0.6 quicker than everybody else.
And also, that's only a tenth of a second off his lap record, and he's there. Yeah. Herfoss is there onto the back of them. The Troy Herfoss is back in action. He loves this circuit. He's got more Superbike race wins here than any other rider in the field. It's 4 wins from 9 starts so far, and he's looking to desperately get back onto that podium again.
It's not luck. It's every lap that he does, and he's competitive now. Even when you watch interviews with him, it's like, oh yeah, no, I'm feeling like I'm, injured or whatever. I'm just not the same as I was. Well, I hate to tell you, Troy, but you're actually pretty much getting back to where you were, and you're stronger than you were. Herfoss may have gone with that super soft tyre, so let's see if it can last the distance.
Well, there's also the fact that the track temperature has dropped as well. Yeah. Let's go down to KP and get all the good goss from Gary Crilly from Pirelli.
Exactly. I've got Gary here now. We were just discussing on the commentary about Herfoss's rear tyre. What info can you give us on who's chosen what out there?
I think the first 4 riders except Herfoss is on our 1126A, which is our medium tyre, and I'm pretty positive Herfoss, based on the time he just said, is on our softer wide 206.
How do you think the conditions are affecting the tyres out there?
Look, at the moment, the track condition hasn't changed that much from this morning. We're almost at the same track and ambient temperature as what we were in Q1 yesterday. So we've got around about 19 degrees ambient and about 25 track, so it hasn't really changed. So I'd expect these guys to go at it all race.
Okay, thanks so much, Gary.
Thank you.
Well, someone that is going at it is Troy Herfoss. He has just taken the lead, Steve Martin. So Herfoss on board bike number 17 has hit the lead ahead of Wayne Maxwell as they make their way now down towards the back end of the circuit. He didn't even have to wait to Honda Corner to do it.
That's right. The Y seems to be Y for yes at the moment for Troy Herfoss. So it looks like he's made the right choice. But it was good to be able to pick up the difference there when you actually have a look. You can see the wear difference of the tyres. It's just a matter of whether that softer tyre will make it all the way. I mean, it's, according to Gary Crilly, it will.
Well, when I spoke
Jones has gone, oh no, I've been mucking around with you guys too much. I'm going to get back out front and have a go.
When I spoke to Troy Herfoss earlier in the weekend, he said the soft tyre was borderline unless they could improve the setup. So maybe they've been able to improve the setup to the point where Troy Herfoss is happy to risk that softer tyre. But Jones has gone into the lead now as we start lap 11. Yeah, so Jones into the lead. You can hear the crowd applauding. Their local hero has taken the lead. Of course, he's very well loved around these parts. But Troy Herfoss, well, he may have grew up in Golden, but he lives in Queensland now as well.
Look who else has joined the fray.
Another Queenslander.
Yeah, Brock Pearson's on the back of that group now. And boy, what a ride he's had. He's caught up a ton of room onto everybody else. 13.2. Fastest man on the track by a mile last time through, Brock Pearson. Still plenty of time. How can he overtake? We haven't seen much overtaking action from him. Is he strong? If he is, he's got a chance of winning this race.
Well, the important thing is, a couple of things here. Jones is leading, but Herfoss is in second, taking a few points off Wayne Maxwell, but also the fact that Brock Pearson is probably doing everything he can to make sure that Desmo Sport Ducati will have to run 2 bikes for the remaining rounds this season with a performance like this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you'd have to give him a go now anyway. I mean, like, he's just, he's had a brilliant weekend, even if he finishes where he is. But catching up to this group, you can see now Maxwell up the inside, and it looks like that Y tyre is starting to give up the ghost. Yes, it was quick, but perhaps a slight gamble.
Well, the big question is, can Troy Herfoss now tag onto the back of his long-time rival Wayne Maxwell and get dragged further forward?
No way. If you look at that rear tyre, it's looking pretty second-hand at the moment. He's just losing edge grip at the moment. You can see there, look how worn that is. All of his edge grip is gone. If you compare that to the other tyres, you can see how the smooth look of the, I think, what did he say it was, the other tyre, the W? It's still smooth, but Herfoss's rear tyre, it's starting to look fairly worn.
Out onto the back straight area we go. It is Jones with a nearly bordering on 1 second lead over Wayne Maxwell. Herfoss in third, starring in fourth. Great ride from Brock Pearson here in 5th position, considering the gap back to the rest of the field. What's impressive about this is that Brock Pearson is only a rookie in the Superbike class. He's not ridden the Desmo Sport Ducati a lot of laps around here at Morgan Park, and he's able to stay with his very experienced teammate Brian Starring, but also some riders that have got a fair few Superbike championships under their belt in Mike Jones, Wayne Maxwell and Troy Herfoss.
Well, Pearson is in with a serious shot of a podium right now. He's just got to get past 2 guys, and there's a shot for a podium. There's Crew Halliday. Hasn't been the weekend that he wanted. Is there something hanging off the side of his bike there? It looked like on the left-hand side there, it looked like it possibly something loose on Crew Halliday's bike there.
I know Crew Halliday looks to be riding the wheels off that machine, holding out Arthur CC's Glenn Allerton, Ant West, and also Jed Metcher. A lot of experience in that group as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Jed Metcher, the 727 Motorsport team, having a decent weekend. He's also got the soft tyre on by the look of it, because it's also wearing.
So Arthur CC's here this weekend has not been getting his lightning starts that we've been seeing all year. And that's probably the only thing that I've noticed about Arthur this weekend, because he's still been able to maintain very competitive lap times over the weekend, but that lightning start to put him up with the front runners is what seems to have been lacking from Arthur's quiver this weekend.
Absolutely. Pearson right now will be pinching himself.
Maxwell is going with Jones as well. They've dropped Herfoss, who's now falling into the clutches of the Desmo Sport duo. Right, there you go. Both of them are past. Starring and Pearson both past Troy Herfoss.
Well, now Pearson's one spot away from the podium. What does he do? What would you do? He's going to have a go, that we know for sure.
Well, I think he'll probably want to make sure that it's a nice, clean move, but at the same time, he'll be desperate to try and get as many points as he can. At the same time, Brian Starring going to be desperate to try and make sure he can claw back as many points as he possibly can as well. The back marker just gets out of the way enough for those three riders to get through. Probably cost Troy Herfoss a bike length or two in that manoeuvre, though.
No, Herfoss's race is run. This now is about the podium, third spot. Which Desmo Ducati is going to be on there? That's what this is about. And like Starring, it's been a while for him. He needs to be on the podium. But number 4, Brock Pearson, I'll tell you what, boy, wouldn't it be fantastic if he did in this Alpine Stars Superbike race.
Well, we're coming up to start the 15th lap of this 16-lap race. Maxwell has closed right onto the back of Jones. So has Maxwell got something for Jones over these final 2 laps? And has Brock Pearson got something for his teammate? That probably won't be the gift that Brian Starring is looking for as they make their way down into AMMF corner. Good battle going on here between the 2 veterans in the field, Nathan Spiteri and also Michael Edwards at his home circuit, doing a great job for his team this weekend. Jones comes down into Motul. Maxwell just maintained position right behind. I think Jones is just too deep on the brakes there for Maxwell to try and find a way past. But this is the sector where Maxwell was extremely fast in all of the qualifying sessions, where everyone else was losing time in Sector 2, Maxwell was gaining.
There he goes. Oh, not quite. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, Maxwell, he's there now. He's going to have a go because he can't afford to give Mike Jones 5 extra points. The pace is not as hot as it was in race 1 either. 13.7, they're in the mid to high 13s at the moment. That's a pace that's comfortable for Wayne Maxwell to run, so he'll be able to have a go. Pearson, though, is looking in devastating form, looking for a way past Brian Starring.
By a man who his own admission has not got a lot of experience and is probably not riding the bike like it needs to be ridden. He's doing a sensational job.
Look.
Here we go, Steve. 3 kilometres to go. Last lap is about to begin. Wayne Maxwell is right on the back of Mike Jones. Jones has a substantial championship lead. Does he want to engage in hand-to-hand combat with Wayne Maxwell over these final 12 corners?
Well, I know that Wayne Maxwell will want to do that for sure. And Pearson, he will be so desperate now. Remember, no pressure on Pearson. If he doesn't perform, it's not the end of the world. Up the inside he goes, Maxwell. He can't quite do it. Jones holds on. Not many corners left now.
Maxwell is going to have to try and put himself in a position to try and spring a surprise overtake on Mike Jones. Where will it be? We saw him do it to Lachlan Epps at the bottom of the hill at Suzuki Corner on the first lap of race number 1. Can he do the reverse manoeuvre at the end of the race to Mike Jones as they come down towards the bottom of the hill and get the run through the chicane and take the win? But Jones is looking incredibly strong as they come down through this Michelin and Dunlop section of the circuit.
He's
for the last time, Maxwell's up the inside. Can he hold it on to it at Suzuki? Jones! Jones has a massive moment. How did he stay on the motorcycle, Steve Martin?
Oh, that was just so lucky, but so brave. Wayne Maxwell, what a run. That was incredible stuff.
Well, race 1 victory was superb. Race 2 was even better for Wayne Maxwell. He takes the race win, and he is super excited over Mike Jones, who was lucky to hold on to second place there. And on the run to the line, it is Brian Starring that just gets the better of his young, feisty teammate, Brock Pearson, for third place. And Troy Herfoss holds on for 5th position, a gallant 5th position. Wow, what a race, what a ride from both Wayne Maxwell and Mike Jones. And this is the way that we've been seeing them go all season, and that's a fitting result here after 2 sensational races at Morgan Park.
Well, that was an unexpected weekend for Mike Jones. I feel that he came here thinking he was just going to win both races. Looking at race 1, you thought that if he got a good start, he was going to walk away with it. But Maxwell didn't let that happen. He might be nearly 40, Phil, but I'll tell you what, he's an animal. He's a weapon. He's the best guy out there today.
And he was so super determined to take the race win. He even got the thumbs up from Troy Herfoss when Herfoss came past. And I think these two have done plenty of laps around here together, but Wayne Maxwell does the double at Morgan Park on board the Boost Mobile Racing with K-Tech Ducati V4R. And I think you can tell by the body language there that Wayne Maxwell is extremely excited. I'll tell you who else will be very excited. Craig McMartin, the team owner, and Adrian Monti, his crew chief. Maxwell takes the win by 0.574 of a second. That's not a fair indication of how close they were over Mike Jones. Starring in third place, Brock Pearson in fourth. What a ride from the young Queenslander, the reigning Supersport champion. Herfoss in fifth, Crew Halliday in sixth, Glenn Allerton in seventh, Ant West in eighth, Arthur CC's in ninth. Jed Metzer rounds out the top 10 with Lachlan Epps, Max Stouffer in 12th in his first visit to Morgan Park on board a Superbike. Sloane Frost also finished a guest ride this weekend for the Maxima Racing.Film BMW team. The local man Michael Edwards also put in a great ride along with Nathan Spiteri and Benjamin Lowe. Let's have a look at the Honda race highlights, and there were so many. At the start, it was Mike Jones that got a sensational run off the line and led the field down in towards turn one. Many people thought that Mike Jones might have just been going to break away and break everyone's back early on, but Wayne Maxwell was not going to let him go. Brian Starring also got a great start, along with Lachlan Epps repeating his great start of race one, but he wasn't able to go with the leaders. It wasn't long and there were four riders that had made a breakaway, but charging hard towards them was number 4, Brock Pearson. He was continually in the camera shot, closing in. Herfoss went from fourth, he went to third, he went to second, and then he went into the race lead at Motul Corner. Jones had had enough of Herfoss leading and took up the running at the front. And then Wayne Maxwell and Jones managed to break away from the three riders battling for the last place on the podium. Herfoss slipped back. The use of that soft tyre really starting to hurt him in the final laps. As the race came down to its climactic conclusion, it was Wayne Maxwell that put on a sensational move through the ultra-fast and bumpy Dunlop corner. How Jones managed to hang on to that massive lose, only Mike Jones and his launderer will know. And as they came across the line, it was Maxwell that took the win by 0.5 of a second over Jones. 11 points gained on Mike Jones's 40-point championship lead by Wayne Maxwell here this weekend. You can see the smile on the face underneath Wayne Maxwell's helmet there and how much that double victory means to him and it means to the team. This was supposed to be the venue where Mike Jones was going to come and dominate, and Wayne Maxwell has pegged back that championship lead with pole position and 2 race wins, setting up a sensational grand finale in Adelaide, because we've only got 5 races to go in the championship. This championship is going to go right down to the wire. See Brian Starring there in Park for May. He would have liked to have a little bit more to fight with at the end of that race. There's Craig McMartin, the team owner of McMartin Racing. Greg Marr from Races Edge Performance, also one of the long-time members of that team, responsible for making all of the fairings for that team and also many others in the ASBK paddock as well. Well, the championship is now poised for a dramatic conclusion. 2 rounds and 5 races to go. Mike Jones has a 242-point championship haul. Wayne Maxwell has closed that gap down now. 213 points, 189 for Brian Starring, 170 for Herfoss after a good points haul this weekend. A top 3 certainly not out of the equation for the Penrite Honda rider. Crew Halliday in 5th, Glenn Allerton in 6th, Arthur CC's in 7th, Josh Waters in 8th, Ant West in 9th, and Daniel Falzon, despite not being here this weekend, still holds down a top 10 position. Right down to the podium now to hear from KP and our top 3.
In P3, Brian Starring on the Desmo Sport Ducati, critical points in that race. Well done. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that was a pretty hot one. I'm so happy just to be on the podium again. It was such a difficult opening race for us. I don't really know why it was so hard for me in the first one, but anyway, it's such a great turnaround to have a solid second race. It was definitely action-packed. I felt like I was just missing a little bit of pace to really be involved in the fight. I was just hanging on. I was just hanging on for most of the race, and at the end there, I had, I think, a little bit more grip than Troy Herfoss, and I knew that Brock was on my wheel, so he was attacking, and I was just happy to hold on for third in the end. And yeah, so anyway, well done to Brock, and congratulations to Wayne and to Jonesy. They've had a great weekend.
Brock was definitely coming for you. I tell you what, well done.
Yeah, thanks.
And in P2, Mike Jones, wow, how did you survive that last lap moment? Just talk us through it.
Yeah, look, the last lap moment, we'll start off with that. Yeah, Wayne got come on the inside there, and I was trying to hang on around the outside of him, thinking that I might still have a chance coming into the next turn, but yeah, just got on a bit dirty part of the track and was still on the gas, and yes, wicked the back up and feet were off the pegs and was nearly all over there, but fortunately managed to stay on the bike and come home with second. So, but you know, got the start. That's one thing that I wanted to do, was get the launch, and I did that. But you know, I tried to run as fast a pace as I possibly could, but it just wasn't enough. And there was a bit of battling there with you know, Herfoss come past, and Wayne was pretty strong there. And once I got back ahead of those guys, I put my head down and thought I had a bit of a gap, but Wayne was just too good for us today.
And so, how do we go away from this round? How do we approach Phillip Island and the Bend, because the championship is now on the line? You haven't quite walked away with it yet.
Yeah, look, I think the approach, as I've always said, is the same. You know, when we go to the race and we run through our schedule, and that's given us the results that we're achieving. So, you know, on our, would you say, our worst day is second place. It's not really that bad. So, yeah, look, and when we're having a great day, it's first place. So, we'll just go to the next race. It's Phillip Island. I'm really excited and looking forward to that one, because that was the first round of our championship, and it was new for me with Yamaha and the racing team. So, to go there again and have another shot at it, I'm just looking forward to that. It's going to be great.
Okay, well done. Congratulations. We'll see you at the next round.
Thank you very much.
And in P1 for a double victory this weekend, Wayne Maxwell, that's a big smile on your face. Tell us about that race and just how important that double victory was to you.
Well, firstly, the race was probably one of the toughest races I've been in. You know, Mike is so fast here, and he led at the start and had a pretty reasonable rhythm, but I sort of knew I had a bit more rhythm than he did. And when I got to the front, it's actually like, it's harder than you think. So when you got a gap, it's like a bit more of a mindset. When there's +0 and you're trying your hardest, it's like, well, you know, they can pass at any time. So I went back, and then Troy passed me, and then Mike passed as well. And then, yeah, I was just having to try to regroup, and I regrouped, got past Troy reasonably quickly, and then the Ducati V4R just settled into a rhythm. My guys just gave me an ultimate package. Like, the amount of testing we've done here is like, compared to everyone else, is like nothing. So to be able to work through the stuff, Adrian, my engineer, you know, he does all the chassis setup, all the electronics, you know, everything, you know, and Craig builds an amazing bike. So, like, yeah, unbelievable. You know, Dale on the pit board, I didn't mention him after the first race, but the whole team, honestly, it sounds like a broken record, but I know how much sacrifice everyone makes to be here. And we're not like a factory team like the other two guys on the podium. We're a small team of volunteers that do it because we love it. And yeah, we can't thank that. One of our big supporters, Roger's here today. Roger Hall, without him, this is not even possible. So massive thanks to him. All of our other partners, Pirelli, how good are the tyres? The lap times at the end were unbelievable. And also, to big shout out, for lastly, to Craig's daughter, Abby. It's her birthday today, so he sacrificed not being at home with his daughter. And happy birthday, Abs. Thanks for letting me have Dad.
Now, there's still a lot more of this championship to go, though. We've got Phillip Island and the Bend coming up. This championship is very much still alive. You're very strong at those rounds.
Yeah, those tracks are two good tracks. My home race at Phillip Island, and yeah, we've seen what we're like at the Bend at the end of last year, so just got to keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully it goes our way.
Good luck, Wayne. We'll see you there.
Thanks so much, and massive thanks to the crowd for coming out today. Unbelievable. Thank you very much.